Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to this lecture of report writing skills. Dear students, in the last two lectures we have discussed in detail something about letter writing, and we discussed the various fundamental parts of a letter, and then we discussed the additional parts of the letter, and after that we discussed the various formats and the styles of the letter existing nowadays. Today, dear students, we would be discussing something about memorandum. Now, before moving on, jumping to this word memorandum, let me remind you that there is something that we call the internal communication, and there is something that we call the external communication. Just to repeat it for you, internal communication, when you communicate with the people or department of your own organization, of the same organization where you are working, then you call it internal communication. And there is something that we call the oral communication and written communication. Oral communication, when you communicate with somebody without writing something on some piece of paper or on some electronic email, with oral words, that is oral communication. And when you communicate with somebody with written words, then this is written communication. So why we are discussing these terminologies, internal communication and after that written communication? Because memorandum is normally used for internal communication, plus it is the written method of communicating within your organization. So memorandum is an example of internal communication plus written communication. Okay, dear students, the word memorandum is normally used as memo as well, shortly used as MEMO, and the plural of the word memorandum is memoranda. Kindly have a look on the screen. Here. So to repeat again, memoranda are normally used for internal communication, and it is a type of written communication, and there are a variety of objectives for which you use these memoranda. And for example, kindly have a look on the screen. If you want to inform somebody, some department, some person, some colleague, some senior, some junior of some decision, of some action, then you will be using memorandum and internally. And if you want to request some decision, or if you want to request some action, in that case as well, you will be you might be going for a memorandum. Then if you want to remind someone of some action, yes, you are having the choice to use the memorandum over there again. And then if you want to provide any information of any kind to any department of your own organization, to any colleague of your own organization, to any junior or senior officer of your own organization, to any person of your own organization, then again you are having the choice of going for the memorandum. Okay, dear students, since a memorandum is used for internal communication, that means communication within your organization, then of course you need not to use the best quality of paper, thinking that it's going outside my organization, so the quality of paper being used will also be putting some impression on the minds of the outsiders. So over here, since you are using the memorandum only For internal communication, you need not to bother about the best quality paper being used for the typed or memorandums for internal communication. Okay, dear students, now let us move to the various parts of the memorandum and how they should be organized and how they should be arranged, and what are the different styles of rearranging or arranging those different parts of a memorandum. Kindly have a look on the screen. But remember, dear students, okay, fine, this is quite clear that since you are using the memorandum format for internal communication, you need not to bother about the best quality of the paper to be used over here. But since memorandum no doubt is being used to transfer some important information within your organization, if a good quality of the paper is not required, there are some other things that are required. Kindly have a look on the screen, and that means your the organization of the different parts of your memorandum. It should be well organized, it should be clear, and then it should be having a neatness in it, because no doubt you want to make your recipient, whether the recipient is your junior, your senior, your colleague or another department, you want the recipient to understand your message, no doubt, and the message is important. So you're not using the best quality paper, no problem, but you cannot afford to write a memorandum that is not clear, that is not having the body that is properly organized, or that is not neatly written. So these qualities no doubt should be the part of any official document that you are creating. Now, dear students, moving on to the different parts of the memorandum. Kindly have a look on the screen. Dear students, the general format that is followed for the pattern or the document that is called a memorandum is to, from, subject and date, or to, from, date and subject. Kindly have a look on the screen. This is the general format. Have a look on the screen. Memorandum, to, from, date and subject. This order normally changes from one organization to another organization. Sometimes it is to, from, date on this side and subject at the third place. It totally depends. It almost is either the choice of the writer or the choice of the organization or the choice of some specific country or a city or an area or a culture. Have a look again on the screen. Okay, dear students, now there are many organizations that are having printed memorandum forms, in which these things to, from, subject and date, they are already labeled, and these printed memorandum forms, whenever used in some organization, might be having the checklist, printed checklist for the employees, or the printed checklist of the departments of your own organization. So if it is a printed memorandum, then kindly have a look on the screen. This is an example of the printed memorandum of any organization. Here. These are the labeled spaces already for this format of the memorandum, to, from, subject, date. Just to show you another printed memorandum of another company. Here, have a look. Yet this is again an example of the printed memorandum form. Have a look. Capital MEMO, memo, date to department subject. Okay, but dear students, if you are not having the printed memo forms in any organization, then you are having the choice to type the memorandum on a plain piece of paper, or you can even sometimes use the letterhead as well to generate your memorandum, to create your memorandum document. Now, first of all, the first thing that would be appearing on a memorandum is the title, and the title can be either memo, or you can use the title inter-office correspondence. Kindly have a look on the screen here. You can use the word memo or inter-office correspondence, and normally this title is placed either at the center of the page or towards the left margin. The word memo or inter-office correspondence, and sometimes the word memorandum is completely used as well. And the recommendation is that it should be all capitalized. That means all letters of this word memo, memorandum or inter-office correspondence should be capital. You can either place them, this title, at the center of the page or towards the left margin. Then after that, dear students, you will be having that the same normal format of the memorandum, that is date, to, from and subject. Kindly have a look in front of you on the screen here. MEMO, capital M, capital E, capital M, capital O, memo, and after that leaving a space of 1 to 2 lines, then towards the left margin you will be writing the word date, and it is again in capital letters. After that is the colon, then leaving double space, and then going for the word to, TO2, capital letters, and then a colon, then again going for a double space, then from, capital letter, and after that is a colon. After that would be the double space, this is the double space, and then you would be writing the word subject, all capital letters, and it is having a colon. Now dear students, as I told you that these 4 parts, to, from, subject, date, you can arrange them in any order. It depends on the choice of the writer, depends on the choice of the company, depends on the choice of the official culture of any country, of any city, of any organization, of any environment. So you can organize it in this way as well. Okay, you will be finding the word memo, the title memo, at the same place or towards the left margin. Then to, have a look on the screen, and you can compare these 2 styles. Over here it is in a linear fashion towards the left margin, date, to, from, subject, and over here to and from, they are towards the left margin, whereas the date and the subject are shifted towards the right side. Have a look on the screen. To, colon, after that from, colon, on the other side, right hand side, date, in front of to, towards the right side, and then a colon, and subject towards the right side, and then a colon. Have a look again and compare these 2 formats. Have a look. Okay, dear students. Now you can omit the heading, like sometimes if you want the heading of date, the word DATE, and the title subject SUBJECT. But when you would be omitting the title subject, the recommendation would be that the subject line should be capitalized then, so that it stands out from the rest of the body of the memorandum. It becomes clear that it is the subject line, and it becomes a bit prominent and visible to your reader when the heading subject is missing. Then try to capitalize the entire subject line. Okay, dear students, have a look on the screen. There might be a situation in which you want to send the memorandum to a long list of people. In that case, there is an option available that in the to position you can write this notation, see the distribution list, or see below. Kindly have a look on the screen. Here, distribution list, see the distribution list, or see below in italics, where at the position of 2, and then the entire list will be present where at the end of the memorandum. For example, if this is the memorandum in front of you, right, then you want to send it to a long list of people, then at the position of 2 you can write see the list below, and over here at this point you will be giving the list, the entire list of the recipients who will be receiving this memo. This would be the location of that list. This is a memorandum, and if you want to send it to a long list of people, this would be the location for writing that whole list. Now, how to arrange that list? This is a very important question. Now, keep one thing in mind, that when you are sending to a long list of people, you're not sending the CC to a long list of people, you are directly sending it to all. This is a different story. When you want to send the copy, you will be arranging it in a different way that we will be discussing. But when you are directly sending to a long list of people directly, to each one included in the list directly, so at the position of 2 you will be writing see the distribution list or see below, and at the end of the memorandum towards the left margin you will be giving the entire list. Now, how to arrange that list, long list of names? A very tactful way of doing that is going for the alphabetical order of the names. Alphabetically you can organize, you can arrange the order, you can arrange the entire list of the recipients at the end of the memorandum towards the left margin. But if you want to give some prominent position to the high ranking officers of your organization, then okay, you are having the choice to move from senior to the junior levels, senior ranks to the junior ranks in the list of the recipients that you are giving at the end of the memorandum. Okay, dear students, if you want to address the memorandum to a group of people, for example, to a group of people, for example, all sale representatives, then the production group as a whole, kindly have a look on the screen, or the assistant vice presidents. So you are directly naming the whole group. That will be the recipient of your memorandum as a group. So individually you are not naming the recipients in that group, you are simply referring to the whole group that will be receiving that memorandum as a group. Okay, dear students, now moving on from these 4 parts. Now, what to write in front of, for example, the word is to from subject date. What should you be writing after this word to? The person the name of the person who is directly going to receive this memorandum. Now over here, in case of memorandum, you need not to give the courtesy titles like Mr., Miss, Doctor, Professor. You simply can directly write the full name of the person, even the first name of the person only, or the last name of the person only, and sometimes only initials are enough. Have a look. Here, have a look. After 2, there is Mr. J.P. Nordhoff, and you do not find any courtesy titles like Mr., Doctor, Professor, etc. with this name. And similarly, from, after from, it's your name, the department or the person who is sending the memorandum, who is the writer of the memorandum. Over here as well, you do not find any courtesy titles. So in memorandum, courtesy titles are not required, or you can do without the courtesy titles. But if there is a situation that when you are writing the memorandum for a person for whom you normally use the courtesy title while you are going for one-to-one interaction, while you are talking directly to that person in your official everyday correspondence, then you do not take that person's name plainly. Then in memorandum, yes, you are having the option, if you feel it better, to use the courtesy title Mr. or Miss as well. So it depends on the situation. Normally, by rule, it's not must that you should be writing the courtesy titles in from and to line, but if the situation is such that where you deem it good, where you feel it good that the courtesy title should be written, since in the normal official correspondence you do not take name of that person plainly and the person might mind it, yes, there you are free to use the courtesy title as well. Okay, then the subject line, dear students, is very important. You should choose a subject line that in reality, in the real sense, conveys the entire theme of the memorandum. You should not be choosing a very vague, a very general subject line, and it should be short, crisp, and representative of the entire memorandum. People do use the subject lines that move on to the second line, means a subject line comprising of 2 lines, sometimes 3 lines, but the recommended length is 1 line, short, crisp, and the real representative of the entire memo. This should be the quality of the subject line for the memorandum. Have a look on the screen, dear students. Now, dear students, when we move on after this, you date, to, from, and subject, you move on to the main body of the memorandum. Now leave 2 to 3 lines after these headings, date, to, subject, from, and then start the body of the memorandum. Now in the body of the memorandum, dear students, you can separate the body in the form of the paragraphs, and there must be a line. You must separate the 2 paragraphs with 1 line space at least, and as far as the lines within the paragraph are concerned, they are single spaced. You do not go for double spacing over there. The recommendation is single space between the lines of the same paragraph. And dear students, if there are some important passages or there are some important points, you can use the headings and the subheadings as well, and the bulleting as well, and the numbering as well. In order to make you a bit more clearer on it, have a look on the screen, dear students. Now, since we are discussing the main body of the memo, so what should be the basic organization of the main body of your memo, how it should start, how it should move on, and how it should end. You must have at least a vague idea of the rules and regulations. Remember one thing, whatever document you are writing, whatever official document, whichever official document you are writing, in the beginning lectures, first and second lectures of the report writing skills, I did discuss with you that there is something that we call the 7 C's. These 7 C's should no doubt be the basic guidelines and the rules and regulations for any document that you are writing. Same is the case over here, but just to give you an idea again how you should be organizing the body of the memo, how it should start, how it should move on, and how it should end. Kindly have a look on the screen. Okay, dear students, whenever you are beginning a memorandum, try to start very briefly with the background information that might be, have a look on the screen, having the reason for writing the memorandum, or you can refer to some previous communication because of which you are writing that memorandum, and then you can answer the questions who, what, where, and when. When you will be answering these questions of 5 W's, you will no doubt give very briefly over here in the memorandum only should be either of 1 page or 2 pages. It's a very short document, so you're supposed to be very much brief in it. So in a very crisp and short and brief form, you should be starting the body of the memorandum with the background, the reason for writing that memorandum, or you can refer to some previous communication with the recipient of the memorandum, that referring to that communication of ours, this is the memorandum that I am coming up with, or these are the suggestions that I am coming up with, and then you can check the beginning of your memorandum with the answer of the questions like what, where, when, who. Then, dear students, next, you should be giving the logical sequence to the facts and the figures that you might be quoting, that or that you would like to quote in the body of either your memorandum. After you have given the background, the next would be the logical sequencing of the facts and the figures that you might like to add up to the body, and you can arrange those facts and figures into separate paragraphs, but each paragraph should be roaming about the same main theme, keeping its own individual identity. One paragraph talking on one theme, but all the paragraphs interlinked along the one main theme. If there are sub-themes, they should be related with each other and related to the main theme. It's again a short document. Memorandum is a short document. You are supposed to give all the required details very briefly in 1 or 2 pages. And the ending is extremely important, dear students, especially when you are talking of the internal communication, and then in internal communication you are talking of the memorandum, and then in memorandum you are talking of the ending of the memorandum. The success of any official document normally depends on this ending of that document. That have you suggested any action to the reader, or have you mentioned any action that you will be taking, or have you given any deadline? Have you helped the reader to move on practically in some direction, that these are the practical steps that are recommended, that should be taken, or these are the practical steps that I would be taking, and this is the deadline that you or I should meet? Now, the success of any document depends most of the times on its ending. So your memorandum should end up with the action statement. that this is something that you should be doing, and this is something that, or this is something that I will be doing, or this is the deadline. Okay, dear students, this was about the body of the memorandum. Now, what type of tone your memorandum should be having while you are writing the memorandum in internal communication? As I told you, memorandum is a document for internal communication. So normally the frankness level with the people of the same organization is a bit higher. So a less formal style is allowed in the case of the memorandum, but it again would depend upon your relationship with the recipient of the memorandum. If you're having a very formal ties, then of course you will be you will try to be a bit formal in your memorandum. But normally in memoranda you are having the liberty to be a little bit less formal. And the tone, no doubt, also depends on the topic, dear students. If the topic is of extreme serious aspect of the organization, a very crucial aspect of the organization that needs full seriousness and formality, then your tone automatically would shift to a formal tone. And if it is not that much serious, it's a routine kind of some activity, then yes, you are having the liberty to be a bit less formal in your memorandum. I would not be using the word informal. Less formal is a better word. Okay, dear students, there might be a situation in which you might have to list in your memorandum some names or some words or some notes. Now you might have to use the numbering style, you might have to use the bulleting style, or you might have to use the letter styles. But the point is this, kindly have a look on the screen. Are there any rules and regulations while you are trying to create a list in a memorandum? If the list is very long, dear students, then it's better not to go for the bullets but to go for numbering, because if you want to refer back to some element, some single element of the list, for example element number 3, then if you have simply bulleted the list, then how would you refer to that? There are, for example, 50 words or 50 names in the list, and you want to refer to name number 3, but you have not numbered it, you have simply bulleted it, that it would be very difficult for you to refer back to the name at place 3. So it's better, if the list is long, go for numbering system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there it would be very much easier for you to refer back to a specific name, specific element in the list, because it's already numbered and can be identified with that number. Kindly have a look on the screen. Why use lists? If you have to use the lists, then what are the benefits of using the lists in a memorandum? Kindly have a look on the screen. They help you organize your thoughts and your points. You're having many thoughts in your mind, you're having many points in your mind, and whenever you are having many thoughts and many points in your mind, it's very much important to organize it, especially when you are sharing it with somebody else in the form of any official document. You can afford to be having a mixed jumble up of thoughts in your mind, but when you are sharing it with somebody else, there your thoughts should be organized, and lists are one way to organize your thoughts. Second, yes, since you would no doubt like your reader to focus on important points, there again these lists would help, because everything is clear in the list, organized properly, and your reader directly would understand and would focus on the points which you deem or think or which he would receive as something important. Then the lists will also show the key points, and your reader will also easily locate the key points that you think are the key points. Then, dear students, lists also simplify the various complicated topics. If there are many complications involved one way or the other way, this is the same thing that you are organizing your thoughts. Whether the thoughts are complicated or simple, organization will end up with a simple comprehension of the entire document for the reader, plus of course for the writer. Now, dear students, there is something that we call the skimming procedure. When your reader is not having enough time with him or her, and she or he directly want to hit the relevant portion of the memorandum, this listing procedure would be very much helpful to make the reading procedure easier for your reader. He would or she would easily skim the entire document since the lists are available in front of the reader. Then, dear students, the visual impact. Kindly have a look on the screen. No doubt the lists and the properly used lists and the properly designed lists positively enhance the visual impact of your document. Now, when you are displaying the lists, dear students, in the memorandum, you should be keeping in mind one thing, that each list individual item in your list should be following a parallel format. For example, if first item of your list is beginning with a verb, then all the items of your list must be beginning with a verb. If the first item of your list is beginning with a noun, then all the items of your list must be beginning with a noun. And if the first item of the first word of the first item of your list is beginning with a gerund, then all the first words of the other items of your list must be beginning with the gerund. Kindly have a look on the screen. Over here, you can improve your business writing by, after it there is a list of 5 items. Have a look. Adopting a friendly conversational writing style, beginning with a verb with ing. Adopting a friendly conversational writing style, reading your message out loud to check the tone. Number 3, keeping to the point and staying focused. Number 4, organizing your points carefully with my 4-point plan. Number 5, using language that the reader will understand. Now look, these are the 5 items of a single list, and all the items are beginning with a verb using ing, continuous form of the verb. Adopting, have a look on the screen. Adopting, reading, keeping, organizing, using. This is the parallel way of designing your list, and this is recommended. If it was a situation over there that the first item started with adopting, but over here the second started with read, and the third with keep, and the fourth with organized, and fifth with will use, then we would have nominated this list as a non-coherent list, which is not following the parallel structure for listing using the lists in a memorandum. That is not professionally recommended. Parallel, the different items in a list must be written in a parallel form. Next example, have a look on the screen. Now this was an example of a numbered list in front of you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let us move to an example of the bulleted list. In that as well you will be following the rule of parallelism. When writing a letter of complaint, let me increase the size a bit for you so that it becomes a bit clearer here. When writing a letter of complaint about something you have bought, remember to describe the item that you bought, say where and when you bought the item, explain what is wrong and any action you have already taken, mention names of anyone you have spoken to and what was discussed, state what you expect to be done to rectify the situation. This is again an example of the parallel list given in any memorandum. All the items in this list, all the bulleted items in this list are starting with a verb, infinitive form of the verb. Describe, say, explain, mention and state. So a small guideline, dear students, that how you should be using the lists in your memorandum and what are the various things that you should be keeping in mind while you are using a list in your memorandum. And then, dear students, if you want to use the headings and the subheadings, yes, the quality of the heading should be such that it represents the paragraph and the main theme of the paragraph. There are many benefits of using the headings in your memorandum. For example, your heading can show the connection of one paragraph. If you want to switch from one theme to another theme, your heading will show the connection of the previous theme with the next theme. Then again, of course, it will enhance the readability for your reader. Your reader will directly go to the point he or she wants to read, and it will make your memorandum more organized in a better way as well. Okay, dear students, these were some guidelines regarding the body of your memorandum. Now you can move on. Okay, now dear students, moving on to the ending of the memorandum. Memorandum does not require your name and signature at the end, because you have already given your name in the beginning of the memorandum with the heading with the title from. So dear students, in memorandum by rule, your signatures and your name in the end is not required. But if there is some such situation, dear students, when you want to sign this document, then it is not prohibited, by the way. You can sign it, especially when you are writing a memorandum dealing with the cash and you want to sign it, then yes, by the end of the memorandum, towards the left side, you can write your name, you can go for your signatures, and yes, in the beginning, in front of the word from, after which you have given your name, you can go for your initials as well. But in normal fashion, in normal day-to-day dealing, this is not the requirement of the memorandum. You can skip it. And dear students, the other elements, reference initials and the enclosure notations and the copy notations, these will be followed exactly in the same way as you are following it in the case of the letter. For example, you want to send the document, the copy of the memorandum to some other people, then after the ending of the body, you will be writing towards the left side, as in the letter, CC, then a colon and the name of the person and the designation, and if address is required, then address as well, to whom you would like to send this document, the memorandum. Similarly, if you want to recognize the person who has typed the memorandum for you, yes, you can go for his initials or her initials in the way as I told you in case of the letter writing. And then the enclosure notations, if you are having any enclosures attachments with your memorandum, you will be putting it exactly at the same position where you did it in the case of the letter. Okay, now dear students, let me show you some examples of the memorandum. Kindly have a look on the screen here. Okay. Now dear students, this is an example of a memorandum in front of you, and the objective of this memorandum is to share some bad news about some products to the sales representatives. Now let us see what this memorandum, let us analyze this memorandum in detail, and let us see what special features this memorandum is having in it and what is there in it to learn. Let us see. Kindly have a look on the screen. Dear students, first of all, it is a letterhead. You can see the name of the company typed over there: Stone Canine and Housewares. Canyon, I suppose. And this is the letterhead of a company. After that, dear students, you find the heading Memo, capital M, capital E, capital M-O, Memo, in front of you. Then a space of 2 to 3 lines. It begins with the date, a colon, October 11, 1995, then 2 sales representatives. If you remember, dear students, while I was introducing this memorandum document to you, I told you that there might be a situation in which you want to send your memorandums to some group of people rather than sending it to some individual person. So over here you can directly write the name of the groups over there. And in the example I gave you all sales representatives, for example, then all the vice presidents, for example, then the production group, for example. And in this memorandum in front of you, you find that yes, this memorandum is also not addressed to one single individual, rather it is addressed to an entire group, sales representatives. After that, from colon Jerry Canfield Marketing Liaison, and then his initials. I told you, you are having the option to go for your initials in front of the name after the word from. Subject, price changes. Okay. Now you will find one thing, dear students, that the subject over here is price changes, but this subject is very carefully selected, because it is neither having any good news in it nor it is having any bad news in it. It is being used as a buffer. It's a buffer subject. It is not telling the reader that the prices have been cut down, or the prices have been raised, or the prices are changing because of some negative reason on your part. So sirf the only thing that is being mentioned over here is price changes. Then next, let us read it out. Kindly have a close look on the screen in front of you. It says, congratulations on setting a new sales record last month. Your all-out efforts are apparent to all of us. It seems that there is something good coming out, although it is a memorandum of a bad news. But dear students, it is beginning with an appreciative note. Remember one thing, whenever you are writing a memorandum that is going to communicate a bad news, dear students, there always try to start with the buffer statement or appreciative statement that might simply somehow lessen the impact of the bad news. The recommendation is, if there is some bad news that you might have to communicate through your memorandum, then always start your memorandum with a buffer. What is a buffer statement? A buffer statement is a statement that is a kind of appreciative statement, sounding good. as if something good is being shared, as if something normal is being shared, as if your reader is being appreciated. Just to minimize the impact of the bad news that might be coming in the forthcoming paragraphs of your report. Have a look. What next? As you know, for the past 3 years we have held our product prices constant so that we could increase our share of the market. Because of this price led and because of your effectiveness, we have achieved an even greater market share than forecasted. But inflation over the past 3 years has driven up our product costs, so we are no longer operating as profitably as we must. To keep salaries in line with inflation and to maintain the industry standard profit margin of 3% of gross sales, the prices of all the products will be raised 10% on the 1st of the next month. Now this was the bad news, dear students, which was very cautiously uncovered, very cautiously exposed. You can see that this paragraph in this memorandum started with the reason for the bad news, and it was very carefully explained. Kindly have a look on the screen, and then the bad news is given, uncovered. They talked about the history in the past 3 years where the prices were kept constant, and the good things that they achieved out of it, but there was something that they called inflation that is now forcing them to raise the prices. Now that would be, and then they informed their recipient by the end of this paragraph that because of these reasons we have to raise the prices by 10% by the 1st of the next month. So dear students, over here in this paragraph you will find a you attitude. If you remember that in the beginning lectures we discussed something in consideration, something that is called the you attitude, in which you focus or give importance to the feelings or to the needs or to the requirements of your recipient, of your receiver, of your customer, of your audience. And over here the way this memorandum is written also shows a kind of you attitude, in which very courteously the memorandum started with a buffer statement, appreciative statement, and after that it moved on to the reasoning of some decision, reasoning of some bad news that till that moment was not exposed, was not uncovered. After giving the reason in detail, the last lines, 2 lines of the second paragraph of the memorandum then came up with the bad news. And let us see what is there in the last paragraph. To generate ideas that will help motivate our customers to accept these price increases, the marketing department and sales department will hold a joint meeting at 10 a.m. next Tuesday in room 247. Please plan to attend. We need to develop some good ways to minimize the impact of these price increases on total sales and to maximize your commissions on the next year's sales. You know very well that sales representatives of any company, they have to sell the products, and there is some percentage that get out of each sale from the company. So when the prices of the products are raised, no doubt, and the sales representatives again have to sell the same products but at higher price, no doubt the job is now much more difficult for them. So it's a bad news for the sales representatives of your company. But over here in the last paragraph, in the first paragraph, beginning from a buffer, appreciation statement, then moving on to the reasons for the bad news, and then giving the bad news. And now the last paragraph has simply given a next hope to the very positive statement to the sales representatives, that no doubt there will be some action that will be taken in order to minimize the impact of this bad news. So this memorandum in front of you is a good example of an official document that is in a very professional way, in a very courteous and considerate way, sharing the bad news with the sales representative of the same company. Here in front of you once again. A very good example, and you must have learned a lot from this example, by the way, and you can practically implement it on all the spheres of your life. Whenever you have to communicate something that is not a good news to anyone, whether in the official documentation form or orally, you must start with a buffer always. Have a look again. Okay. Let me show you some other examples of the memoranda. Here, dear students, another example of the memorandum in front of you. To J.P. Nordhoff from Lia Chung, date March 8, 1995, subject proposed training program for consulting staff. And is an authorized memorandum report. The memorandum report means it is for internal communication. Here, headings are being used in this memorandum. Moving to the next page of the memorandum. This is the next page. Here. And this is the conclusion. Showing you some other examples, dear students. Here in front of you, another example of a memorandum. Date, to, from, subject, activities, and heading activities completed, then the activities scheduled, and then the problems. This is the end of the memorandum report. A memorandum. Giving you another example then. Here in front of you, another example of a memorandum report. Memorandum, you can call it directly the memorandum only as well. Memorandum, date October 23rd, 1995, to Gary Boone, from Chris Bowers, subject manufactured housing convention. You can find the initials of the person, of the writer as well, in front of the name of the person, Chris Bowers, CB, optional. Then, dear students, the headings: mobile phones, the modular housing, first degree headings being used in the planned housing and the recruit housing, pre-cut housing. Here, well, okay, dear students, in today's lecture, let me give you a small summary of the entire lecture. We have discussed the memorandum, and in memorandum we have discussed various parts that are the part of a memorandum, and what should be written in which part, and what are the various to, from, subject, date, and what are the various styles of writing these parts of a memorandum at different locations, and then the body of the memorandum. And we talked about the beginning and the ending of the memorandum, and we shared with each other some examples of the memoranda as well. I'm sure, dear students, that you must have benefited from today's lecture a lot. Wishing you best of luck in all the good things of your life. See you inshallah in the next lecture. Till then, Allah Hafiz.